Hello, happy Friday. Welcome to the Unit 9 Quadratics review. So please make sure you're taking notes on this so you can use it on your review worksheet today. So we're going to start with if you're looking at your recipe card, this is learning target number 1, which is I can determine if a table is linear or quadratic. So if you're looking at your recipe card, you would see that you have to find what it's going up by to start. So from 1 to 3 up here, we're going up by 2. From 3 to 7, we're going up by 4. From 7 to 13, we're going up by 6. And from 13 to 21, we're going up by 8. So it's not linear because it doesn't stop on the first time, so we have to go one more. So from 2 to 4, I'm going up by 2. From 4 to 6, I'm going up by 2. And from 6 to 8, I'm going up by 2. So it is quadratic because I got it on the second time. Right? So go ahead and try this one on your own. Pause the video. All right, so this one goes up by 2, up by 2, up by 2, up by 2. And since it happened on the first time, it is linear. All right, and then we're going to move on to learning target 2 and 3 on your recipe card, which is finding some stuff from quadratics. So we're going to start, this is out of order. We're going to start with this one. So determining if it opens up or down. So since this one is pointing in an upwards direction, it opens up. And because it's opening up, it is a minimum because this key point right here is called our vertex and it is the low point. So sticking with that same thing, now we need to find the coordinates of the vertex. So go ahead and pause the video and see if you can find the vertex, the axis of symmetry, and write the equation in vertex form. All right, so the vertex is right here. So to get there, I go over 1 and down 4. So my vertex is 1, negative 4. So check yours. The axis of symmetry, remember, is the line that divides this in half. It's not very straight, my bad. Hold on. All right, so if I take my line feature here, it's the line that divides the parabola in half. Right here, and it goes through the vertex, you can see. So it is passing through the x coordinate as well, so it is x equals 1. It should match the same as this. And then vertex form is the parentheses squared equation, so it's x parentheses squared. If it goes right 1, it's a minus 1 on the inside, and if it goes down 4, it's a minus 4 on the outside. All right, next we're going to move on to factored form and our zeros. So our zeros, remember, are where it crosses the x-axis, so it's where it crosses this axis here. If we go like this, it's right here. It's wherever it crosses here. So there should be 2 of them for the most part. If there's not 2, that means there's usually only 1. So the zeros right here are at negative 1, and it's called a 0 because the second coordinate's 0, and the second one is at 3, 0. So factored form is the double parenthesis, and remember, whenever you put something in parentheses, you should change the sign. So since it's a minus 1, it's going to become a plus 1, and since it's a plus 3, in the equation, we're going to write x minus 3, right? And the last thing is domain and range from this graph. So the domain, if there's arrows, they're really tiny, but there's arrows, remember, they make them a little bigger. If it's going on forever, the domain is always all reals. It's that symbol, or you can write all real numbers. Okay? The range always starts with y, and since I'm pointing upwards, I'm getting bigger, so I need a greater than symbol. All right? And it's getting bigger than the lowest value of my vertex, which in this case is negative 4. All right, now we're going to move on to our last 2 topics. So now we're moving on to number, I think it's number, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. Number 5 on your recipe card, which is I can find the axis of symmetry. All right, so the axis of symmetry is that formula, negative b over 2a. All right, the a is the first number, and if there's nothing there, it's a 1. The b is the second number, and the c is the last number. All right, so I'm going to write that out. It's going to be negative parenthesis over 2 parenthesis. My b value is 2. My a value is 1. So I get negative 2 over 2, which equals negative 1. So the x coordinate of my vertex is negative 1. Once I know x, to find y, I plug that -1 in. So I'm going to copy the equation, except I'm going to take out the x. And what I'm going to plug into the x is -1. And then I'm just going to type that into my calculator. Right, when I type that in my calculator, I get 1 minus 2 plus 1, I get 0. So the y coordinate of my vertex is 0. Right, so pause the video and try this one out using that formula -b over 2a. All right, my a value is -2, my b value is 8, my c value is -4. My equation then is -b over 2a. So I get negative, oops, excuse me, not that. Hold on. Where's my eraser? Sorry about that. So I get -8 over 2 times -2. So I get -8 over -4, which gets me a positive 2 for my x coordinate. And then remember, to find my y, I just do -2 parentheses squared plus 8 parentheses minus 4. And then I'm plugging that 2 in. And then I type it straight into my calculator. So I get 4 times -2 is -8. So I get 8 minus 4, which gives me 4. So make sure you got that for an answer. All right, and now we're moving on to learning target 6, which is finding our roots. All right, so to find our zeros from an equation, sorry about that, I keep flipping around here. All right, so we have a factored equation. This is factored form. Remember, the zeros are just taking the opposite sign. So if I have a positive 4, my 0 is at -4, 0. If I have a -6, my 0 is at +6, 0. Now this question has a little bit of an extension, but I just want to visually see what we have. So we know that the x-axis, it crosses at -4 and +6. The axis of symmetry is going to be in the middle of that. So I'm going to take my pen here and I'm going to cross out until I get to the middle. So 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, and I can see that the middle is right here at 1. So my axis of symmetry is at 1. Another way to find that is to add your roots together and divide by 2. So -4 plus 6 is 2. Divided by 2 also gives me 1. So again, one option is to graph it and cross out until you find the middle. Another option is just to add your two roots together and divide by 2, and you can get the same exact axis of symmetry, which is going to be again in the middle. All right. So what's different about this one is we have that 2 in front for our root, all right? So we still change the sign, so it's still -1, but since we have the 2 in front, we have to divide by 2. So my first 0 is -1/2 0. The second one doesn't have a number in front, so it's going to be +4 0. All right, so take a second to write that down before we do our last couple here. This one is not in factored form yet, so take a second right now and see if you can factor this. So again, we want to multiply to 12 and add to -8. All right, I hope you got -2 and -6. So my factored form would be x minus 2, x minus 6. So then my roots are 2, 0, and 6, 0. Remember, I always change the signs. All right. And the last type of problem we're doing is our real world problems. So remember, initial height is the same thing as starting or your y-intercept. So I'm going to color code this. Initial height is this red point right here. Oops, my point got all over the place. Let's try that. Initial height is right here at the start. Okay, so that's 3. And we're going to say this is in seconds and feet. So our initial height is 3 feet. Our vertex, remember, is the high point. So it looks like it's about right here at 1.5. And then it's about here at 12.5. So our vertex is 1.5, comma 12.5. And the meaning of that is at 1.5 seconds, the height is 12.5 feet. All right, so all we do is we say this is the x, so it's seconds. This is the y, so it's feet, and we write that out in a sentence. All right, and if you remember from last unit, the axis of symmetry is the same as the x coordinate of the vertex. So our axis of symmetry is at 1.5. All right, now it's going to ask us a few more questions about the same graph. The domain and range of this graph, remember domain is left to right, and range is lowest to highest. And they both, for real world problems, tend to start at 0. Not always, but most of the time. So this one starts at 0 seconds and goes all the way to here at 3. And it also hits the ground here at 0, and the highest it gets is 12.5. So my range is 12.5. So again, just one more time, the domain is here from 0 to 3. And the range is the lowest, which is from 0 up to 12.5. So again, domain left to right, range low to high. And the last one is asking us a couple more technical questions. So when it's 10 feet, feet is the y-axis. So I'm going to go to 10 here and go across. And my line is not straight. So when I go across, I hit once there and once there. So it looks like it's about, we'll say, I don't know, 0.5. And the other one looks like it's about 2. So we would say 0.5 seconds and 2 seconds. We have 2 answers for that one. 0.5, right? How high is the ball after 2 seconds? Seconds is our x coordinate, so we're going to go on the x-axis to 2. And it's actually the same answer we just got, but it's going to be now that it's 10 feet. So just pay attention. Feet is the y, so I had to go on the y-axis first here. Seconds is the x, so I had to go on the x-axis here and go up and see how high it was. And lastly, when does the ball hit the ground? That is our end right here. It's hitting the ground right there at 3 seconds, right? So please ask to rewind if you need to see any of the other notes. Use this note sheet and your recipe card now to complete the review worksheet. Have a wonderful day.